We move on from number 1 to number 2. The San Francisco 49ers are on the clock, and we had a historical pick for many reasons with number 1. We may have another historical pick with number 2. That is the man we believe is going, potentially, Nick Bosa. His father, John Bosa, 16th overall in 1987. His uncle, Eric Kumerow, 16th overall, the same slot, to the same team, the Miami Dolphins in 1988. And, of course, his brother, Joey, 3rd overall a few years ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, the pick is in. Is it Bosa time by the Bay? Let's find out.
With the second pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Nick Bosa, defensive end, Ohio State.
Well, there it is, and there you see his older brother behind him there. You have to wonder if in some way, shape, or form the 49ers didn't want to resist making this pick, because it's the 4th time in 5 years they've basically taken a defensive end with their 1st overall. But this is the Bosa family. There is John with the 2 boys who, of course, now join him as number 1 picks in the NFL. This is the boys playing a game in the backyard that they made up. It's called Kill the Man with the Ball. How did they ever become defensive players? We never knew. And there, of course, you see, that's the father in the middle. By the way, Mel, he still has the boy band hair. I'm just pointing that out. And there is Nick showing the inside lining of his jacket. And this is also significant because with the Nick Bosa selection, they become, on the defensive side of football, when it comes to the draft, what the Manning family is on the first side. Because Archie, Peyton, and Eli became the first family ever that had a father and 2 sons all taken in the 1st round of the draft. And now, ladies and gentlemen, meet the defensive Mannings, the Bosas. John in '87, Joey in 2016, and Nick in 2019. And if you're thinking, wait a minute, what about Howie Long and his 2 sons? Yeah, Chris and Kyle were 1st rounders. Howie was actually a 2nd rounder out of Villanova back in 1985. But there he is. The Bosa family triumvirate is complete. And once again, for the 4th time in 5 years, the Niners go defensive end, defensive line, edge rusher in the draft. What do we think, Lewis?
Well, look, there's 2 ways to really improve your pass defense efficiency. Look, the 49ers only had 2 interceptions in 2018. You can't win that way. And they allowed 35 pass TDs. There's no corners, there's no coverage players that you would wind up that you could justify taking at the number 2 overall pick in the draft. So how do you affect the pass defense? You get guys who can rush the passer. Nick Bosa is good at that.
He certainly is, even though he had that injury that missed most of the season this year for Ohio State. So DXL takes us down to Susie, who's standing by with the latest member of the Bosa family to be drafted in the 1st round.
Well, Nick, one of the ultimate football families. What does this moment represent for you?
It's a new journey. I'm so excited to finally be back on a team. Can't wait to get to work, but this is all the work I've put in since I was 7 years old, and it's finally here.
Well, it seems like forever since you've been on the field. I mean, what do you want to do when you first join your teammates?
I want to get with my team. I want to kick some butt on the field. I'm so excited to go to work.
You know, we always hear about your brother, your dad, but how would you describe what your mom has meant to your journey?
I mean, words can't even explain my mom. She's been the one driving us to practice since I was 7 years old, putting my pads in my pants for me. I mean, I love her more than anything.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Susie, Nick, thanks very much. Bosa only played in 3 games this year, but he had 4 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, a defensive touchdown, a pass breakup. That's a lot for 3 games, Boog. This guy can play.
Well, he can absolutely play. And what you're getting with Nick Bosa, he's a professional rusher. What does that mean? He understands angles. He understands leverage. He can bend and flip his hips. We all saw Joey Bosa. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Bosa has a little bit more juice and has a little bit more giddy up in his step than his brother Joey. You're going to see a guy that can come off the corner, use his hands exceptionally well, get to the quarterback, and he can finish. And even in sub package, you can reduce down, and he also plays with power and the ability to shed and make tackles. You put him at defensive end, and barring an injury, he'll get you 7 to 12 sacks for the next 7 to 10 years. That's the type of player you're getting. You don't have to teach him how to rush. He already knows how to rush. With speed, with power, Mel, he can do it with the best of them.
Yeah, and I think the key for the 49ers is pass rush. They haven't had it. DeForest Buckner stepped up with 12 sacks this year. They traded him for D Ford. Now all of a sudden you add Nick Bosa. You went from a team couldn't get after the quarterback a few years ago to now a team that's 3 pass rushers. Fred Warner, you add Quan Alexander. Now your front 7 is well fortified with Nick Bosa and a developing DeForest Buckner and D Ford. Now all of a sudden Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray and Jared Goff. Now you got the pass rusher to get after those guys.
Really, a really interesting division going forward. So this was a few years ago what we saw from Joey Bosa in 2016. He gave the hug to Commissioner, and of course, just a few moments ago, little brother got to do the exact same thing. 2 historic picks to start the 2019 draft. What's going to happen next?
So Nick will play his ball out on the West Coast in Northern California, and we all know his brother plays it in Southern California. His father also a first-round selection, so the Bosas, you'll see in a second, join some pretty respectable company in the NFL in that department. And DJ, you were telling me that scouts throughout the NFL were drooling over this kid being a prospect coming in, and now he's in the National Football League.
Last year, you remember when Sam Darnold was coming out, people were critical of how he played against Ohio State. That guy walking right there is why he didn't play well in that game. He hit him repeatedly. He dominated when he was on the football field. Needs to stay healthy, but everything I've heard is he is 100% healthy and ready to go. I think the 49ers just got the best football player in this year's draft.
And you think about what they did up front. They spent a lot of money on that defensive front, but now you've got D Ford who can rush on one side. You've got Bosa on the other side. DeForest Buckner, who had 12 sacks last year. And Coach, as you mentioned, right, you got Solomon Thomas, who's been playing defensive end. He can now move inside where he's at his best.
Absolutely. And we get to Nick Bosa. Look, it is the family business. Get a chance to watch his brother Joey each and every week. The hands and the hips, they're off the charts. The only concern, the durability with some of the time that he's missed. Let's look at the comparison between the brothers. How about a little double hand swipe from Nick? And if that looks familiar, working against Maryland here, get that swipe and finish. It's because you've seen Big Brother do the exact same thing. Ironically, on this one, looks like the former quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, and Josh Rosen. How about a little forklift? Lift that wrist up in the air, that hand-to-hand combat. That's what the Bosa boys are so good at, working against TCU, get home and force the fumble. And Joey's been doing that since he got into the league, the exact same move. They are technicians. They can win with a little quickness off the edge, and they can go right through your pads. They're slightly different players. I think Nick plays with a little more power and a little more leverage. He can even kick inside and rush over a guard if you want, but it's going to be fun to watch him in that defensive front. You mentioned it, Kurt. They've got some assets up front now for this defense.
It's going to be exciting, and you mentioned it. You mentioned 2 of the 3 things for me, because he can play with that power. He's got that speed off the edge. If you don't kick on this guy, he's going to hit you fast. He's going to hit your quarterback. You saw it twice, and the quarterback's getting the top of his drop, and he gets hit. But the other thing this guy has is a nasty inside move. It is a scary inside move, so you can't play him over the top. You can't play him underneath. You got to try and play him straight, and you better chip him.
And with the selection of Murray will now be in the crosshairs for Bosa, who, as I mentioned, along with his brother and dad, first-round selections, joining the Manning family, is the only such family to have a dad and 2 sons selected in the first round of an NFL draft. And so now we've got 5 minutes to go on the clock right now for the New York Jets. And the question is, are the Jets going to trade down? That's been a lot of the conversation about the Jets over the last 48 hours. They're going to trade down, and out of this pick there is the Bosa family right there. And so the question is are the Jets going to trade down out of this pick? Are the Giants looking to trade for Josh Rosen right now? New York football is kind of interestingly right in the middle of all this, while we send things to Deion Sanders, welcoming Nick Bosa to primetime, delivered by Pizza Hut.
What's the family secret? Everyone in the house goes in the first round. How does this happen?
Shit, we got good genes, man. Good genes. My mom and dad know how to make them.
They sure do. What advice did your brother give you on how to prepare and how to handle the night?
Just, appreciate every moment. It's only one time you get to go through this, so appreciate every moment and don't wish away time.
Tell Dad I need to talk to him because you guys know what you're doing. Back to you, Rich.
Nick Bosa celebrating with his family in the green room. The Bosa family now joins the Mannings. Archie, Peyton, and Eli, now John, Joey, and Nick as the only families with a father and 2 sons who are first-round picks in the NFL. John Bosa was drafted 16th overall by the Dolphins in 1987. Look, there are a lot of great football players in this family. Eric Kumaro, 16th overall by the Dolphins. And Joey Bosa, you know, the star defender for the Chargers, was drafted 3rd overall just 3 years ago. And there are the Bosa men. Spend a little time in the weight room. Get jacked up. He's got the Ohio State lining in the jacket. And Nick Bosa, who missed most of the season with a core muscle injury that required surgery, comes back as the 2nd overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a controversy when he got the injury and decided to leave the team, but it obviously worked out for him. The training that he was able to do with his brother Joey. Imagine growing up with a dad that was a first rounder, an uncle that's a first rounder, your older brother. That's a big shadow. And he walks right out there and has his own career and is able to step out there. 6'4", 266, ran a 4.7 at the combine. Has, again, that rare breed of power, quickness, leverage, dominant player.
And I saw him at the TCU game when he got hurt.
Yeah.
And I said, boy, he's a great football player. I hope it's not a serious injury. It was serious enough, he didn't play again this year.
Yeah, he did it. It was a core injury that required quite a bit of rehabilitation, about 3 months. We go back to the rooftop and Robin Roberts.
All right, Reese, on the last play of his collegiate career, Ohio State defensive end Nick Bosa suffered a core injury. It was a long road back, as we've been telling you, but you know he's here. He's a #2 pick. He's recovered and ready to continue the family tradition of playing in the NFL.
My dad played for the Miami Dolphins, first-round pick in '87. The year after, my uncle Eric Kumaro was picked out of Ohio State, first round to the Miami Dolphins. A couple years ago, my brother picked #3 to the Los Angeles Chargers, and now it's my turn.
Pull, 2, good.
Flexibility has become a really big thing for us.
Good, now reduce that time. There you go.
We've learned that to have longevity in the NFL, you have to be flexible and be able to bend around the corner. It's really important. I love this game. I've been playing it since I was 7 years old, and to continue the legacy means everything to me.
Tried to keep his boys from playing football, but it was in their blood, and they wanted to play defense just like their papa. The Bosa family is with our Tom Rinaldi. Tom?
With Cheryl and John Bosa. I'll get to you in a second, Dad. Mom, recently, your son said, sometimes my mom doesn't get the credit that she deserves. What do you think compelled him to say that?
Well, Nick and I are just so close. We're together every day. He lives with me. I make him breakfast in the morning, lunch, dinner. And I don't know. We're an amazingly close family. So,
John, every family dreams of having a standard for their kids to live up to, but then having to raise them to match that standard. How did you do that? Not once, multiple times.
Well, I promised them one thing. I'd surround them with the best people. I never coached them. I wanted to be just dad. So
how hard was that?
It wasn't hard for me. I didn't want to coach. I wanted to be supportive, dad, be there when they needed me. But I was so fortunate to surround them with great coaches from Youth League. Coaches are here today, Youth League, to St. Thomas Aquinas, to Ohio State, and those coaches are here. I surrounded them with great people, and I was just able to be dad, and it worked out wonderful. I'm so proud of them.
You heard. And there is the moment. Nick Bosa giving the big hug to Roger Goodell and the 49ers. 49ers needed pass rushing. They flat got it.
Yeah, they got exactly what they need. A guy that can come off the edge. He's a 3-down player, meaning he can help you on 1st down and 2nd down against the run. And you get a team to 3rd and 6, just like his brother, you better have an eye on where he is because he's coming after the quarterback.
He's a good enough athlete. He can drop and cover.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes him real good.
With the 32nd pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Debo Samuel, South Carolina.
We'll get to Debo in a minute, but for those that don't know, Reggie Cobb was the second-round pick by the Bucs, but played his college football here at the University of Tennessee and was one of the most powerful collegiate runners I can ever remember seeing. So sad to see that Reggie is gone at the age of 51, and really nice to see his son up there on the stage make the announcement for the 49ers. But now we talk about the run of the cornerbacks to start this round, and here comes the run on the wide receivers. Todd, Debo Samuel was one of your favorite wideouts in this draft. Let's tell everybody why.
Yeah, he's a first-round talent. Now, he's had some durability issues, and some were worried about why it took him so long to get back into 100% shape this past year. But he is a big, thick slot receiver who creates a lot of problems. First of all, his route running. He's kind of a physical freak, even though he's not 6'4", 6'5". He is so athletic and has the ability to go up and adjust to the ball. Then I think his exceptional trait is when he has the ball in his hands. The vision, the quickness, and then the acceleration that he brings to the table. He's a 6 foot, 214-pound receiver who ran in a 4.48 at the combine, and you see it in the run game, you see it in the return game. Remember, he owns a share of the SEC career kick return touchdown record with 4. Big-time playmaker when he's on the field. If he can stay healthy, Mel, he's got a chance to be special. And remember, John Lynch, 2 big needs coming into this draft. Edge rusher, wide receiver. Nick Bosa round 1 and picked 2 overall, and now they get their wide receiver that they need for Jimmy Garoppolo.
You would need evidence about Debo Samuel, Todd. You go back to that eventual national champion Clemson Tiger game. 10 catches against Clemson, 210 yards, 3 touchdowns. When he was healthy, he was dynamic. The kick return ability lessened because of the rules, not many kick returns, but after the catch, nobody liked this kid. If he can stay 100%, he brings an attitude, too. He is a competitor all the way, Lewis.
Look, to give some context to how much San Francisco needed wide receiver production, they were the only team in the NFL that didn't have a wide receiver to crack 500 yards receiving in 2018. Right. So they needed him. You pair him with George Kittle, who's one of the best tight. You watch George Kittle play. He is a dynamic tight end. Him and Debo Samuel together, they get the running game going, get Jimmy Garoppolo back healthy. Yeah. Tremendous.
Another tight end out of Iowa, by the way, George. Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo very happy with this selection. By the way, Debo likes to show out a little bit. He will wear some threads. And, of course, his stepmom, who doesn't like his nickname, says that boy could put on a paper bag and he would look good. So stepmom is very proud of the way Debo steps out in his clothes, and he'll be stepping out at wide receiver now for the San Francisco 49ers.
49er fans should be excited about that. Debo Samuel, a first-team all-SEC players and all-purpose guy, second-team all-conference as a wide receiver. He is a terrific outside threat for Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers.
With the 67th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Jalen Hurd, wide receiver, Baylor.
Sick 'em. By the way, Jalen Hurd is a really interesting character. He started out not at Baylor and not as a wide receiver. He began his collegiate career as a running back at Tennessee and was poised to be their bell cow running back, but then he did the research and realized my potential to draft and play longer is at wide receiver, and he transferred to Baylor.
Yeah, and he played 12 games, and he went out and he had 69 catches, and it showed as a big guy, 6'4 and a half, 226 pounds, that, hey, I can compete, and I can also be a versatile weapon. Ran a 4.63 at his pro day. He's not a burner, but because he's that size, Mel, and because he can catch the football, he just becomes an offensive weapon.
6'5", almost 226 pounds. The Kansas State game, he had a career-high 11 catches for 135 yards. He had 8 carries for 56 yards in that game. Soft hands, likes the middle of the field. As a running back in previous years, you know what he can do.
Giving Garoppolo some weapons.
Yes, they are.
Well, you need a creative offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurd because he can do a little bit of everything, a running back and a slot receiver. Remember, he was here at the University of Tennessee as a running back. He's very smooth and slithery as a runner. Let's go back to his time with the Volunteers. At 6'4" in the backfield, Big. He is so fluid and loose. See him here getting to the corner, find your way into the end zone. Then he goes to Baylor, decides I want to play wide receiver, and pretty darn impressive for not having done it at that size. Good. You're going to be able to break the huddle with him, and the defense is not going to know where he's going to be. It's going to be a fun matchup for Kyle Shanahan there in that San Francisco offense.
And Joel, how many times did you see him actually take it as a tailback at Baylor as well, even though he left there because he left Tennessee to not be a tailback anymore?
That speaks to Daniel's point about the creativity with Kyle Shanahan. You can do whatever you want with him. This guy was one of the best high school football players from the state of Tennessee ever. 3,000 yards as a junior.
Jalen Hurd and Debo Samuel, 2 receivers back-to-back for the Niners.
Jalen Hurd, the Baylor wide receiver, started his career at Tennessee as a running back, went to the Niners as a receiver.
A great running back prospect early in his career. Here's some good video of that. And all of a sudden, he just decided, I don't want to play running back anymore. Transferred, went to Baylor, learned how to run routes, became more fluid, I think, this year. And that's not easy to do at his size. To be a running back, and all of a sudden you go out wide, and you're learning how to run routes in Baylor's offense.
Well, you know what? It was a good move for him in terms of his stature. He's nearly 6'5". I mean, here in Nashville, they've got a big running back in Derrick Henry. He's not 6'5".
Right.
So Hurd now have his chance
very
as a wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, break open that chocolate.
With the 110th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Mitch Wishnowsky, punter from Utah.
Oh, yeah, break open the chocolate, and life is like a box of punters. You never know who you're going to get. Mitch Wishnowsky. I got this. I can read off a screen. I also know that he won the Ray Guy Award back in 2016. Punters are All-Americans, too. Second team. But is an All-American. Because punters in Utah, the Pac-12, they're weapons. Punters everywhere around the world can flip field position and win football games. Punters are 4th-rounders, too. And yes, you put them in chocolate, and they come out so delicious. Roll your break.
Oh, that is
Rich.
beautiful.
There it is, Rich. I did a lot of homework on him, Rich. You want to hear my notes?
I don't.
Second best punter in the draft.
Tell me more. Sorry, Falcons, Redskins, Ravens, and Seahawks. You can't have that punter.
Gentlemen, if you are wondering, and if you had in the pool, pick 110, you win. There's our first specialist off the board. San Francisco in the 4th round takes Mitch Wishnowsky, the punter out of Utah. Punter highlights.
You know I'm a team player when I take the punter.
Attaboy, Todd.
All right, Australian rules football player, just like every other kicker and punter, it seems like these days. But he had to switch sports when he was younger. He had surgeries on his left shoulder and had struggles there. So he winds up going to Utah and eventually becomes the Ray Guy Award winner in 2016. He averaged 46 yards per punt, had 62 of those punts go for 50-plus yards. Big-time leg, and when you look at the situation there, Bradley Pinion gone to Tampa Bay. They brought in Justin Vogel, who was out of football last year in 2018 with an injury, so to me, it makes a lot of sense. I know it's a little early for a punter, but this guy he's got a chance to be a real difference.
Need-based pick. And the other punter you would want to watch out for is Jake Bailey out of Stanford. We saw him at the Combine. Wishnowsky also can kick off.
By the way, we also had an Australian punter go last year, Michael Dixon, to Seattle.
time the chocolate football yielded a punter. What do we got here?
With the 148th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Dre Greenlaw, linebacker from Arkansas.
Dre Greenlaw, somebody ran 4.72. I thought he played a little bit faster than that. Good range, working inside out. Liked his short area quickness as well. The thing that stood out to me, I like what he did in the passing game. You see him cover tight ends down the seam. You see him get his hands on some footballs there. You also see him as a zone dropper, very instinctive against the pass.
So what happens when he signs a contract? You know what it is? It's the Greenlaw New Deal in San Francisco. Come on now. I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's on a tee. It's a spinning
Keep the politics out of here. Yeah.
But I don't think he has enough votes for it.
Stick to football. I love you too, Pat. I love you too. It's a bromance, but everyone knows it. We already know it.
Next up, San Francisco has taken Dre Greenlaw, the linebacker out of Arkansas, Todd.
Yeah, Greenlaw's an off-the-ball linebacker. He had a really good week at the Senior Bowl. He's a four-year starter at Arkansas, racked up a lot of production. 320 tackles, 13 tackles for loss. He also forced 4 fumbles during his career. So he's a playmaker, a guy who's played at the highest level in the SEC. Now, he's a rangy run defender who plays faster than his 40 time. He bulked up during the pre-draft process, tried to get close to 240. He doesn't play that way. He's really more of 225, 230-pound range. He ran a 4.72, which I think hurt him to some degree. He's got to learn how to take on blocks a little bit better, but when you keep him free and let him run, he's going to be a productive player. San Francisco's going to bring him in. They're going to put him on special teams right away and say, earn a roster spot. And if you do, then we'll give you some time to develop as an inside linebacker in our defensive scheme.
Lewis, here's the San Francisco pick page. What do you think of the job that they're doing in building this roster?
Well, the first 2 picks they have to hit on. These guys have to be very productive players because they need them as far as being able to improve that pass defense on the defensive side of the ball. And then Debo Samuel has to be everything and more for them as far as wide receivers are concerned.
Jalen Hurd is a really interesting pick. Potential boom-bust kind of guy. Again, was a running back, and Tennessee transferred to Baylor to become a wide receiver.
With the 176th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Kaden Smith, tight end, Stanford.
Easy transition. Tight end out of Palo Alto, Kaden Smith, goes to the 49ers, and this is no surprise. He's the 6th tight end from Stanford to be selected since 2012.
And that's all they do is produce tight ends. And I thought he was going to become a better player and become a higher draft pick when I watched him on tape 2 years ago. And the speed is the problem. He's speed deficient. He's a big target, 6'5", 255 pounds. You can work him in line. He's worked, as you see here in the slot. They teach their tight ends how to run great routes. I really like his ball skills. He'll make tough catches over the middle, and he'll block. And I like his competitiveness. The problem is, he's going to struggle to get down the field and create, and he also struggles to get in and out of breaks, and he's not going to do much after the catch. But, again, we're talking about the 6th round for a player who had 70 catches the last 2 years, redshirt sophomore, and comes from a program that continues to just produce tight ends in the NFL.
Well, there you see them all.
And quite honestly, look, if they need somebody to run down the field and stretch the seams, they got George Kittle. This is a team that wants to run the football, stretch the football horizontally, and get out on the edges with their outside zones. You need one of the guys who's going to be able to go ahead and do that, and maybe he fills that role for him while George Kittle continues to rip the league apart in the passing game.
By the way, he wears 82 because he's from Flower Mound, Texas, in honor of Jason Witten. Hey, whatever happened to Jason Witten?
We have
with the 183rd pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, the 49ers select Justin Skule, from a tackle from Vanderbilt. Yay!
With the 198th pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Tim Harris, defensive back from Virginia. Coming for you, Niner Nation.
There's the San Francisco 49ers. Here's what they have done, beginning with the second overall pick, taking Nick Bosa out of Ohio State.
With the second pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Nick Bosa.
A lot of worrying for nothing, man. It all worked out, so we're good. We knew it the whole time, so we had no anxiety.
This is all the work I've put in since I was 7 years old, and it's finally here.
So with that pick, the Bosa family joined the Manning family as the only teams or families in NFL history to have a father and two sons drafted in the first round. And for more on Nick Bosa and the rest of the draft, let's talk to the man who drafted him. Delighted to be joined by 49ers GM John Lynch. John, the bloodlines are strong in Nick Bosa. What did you like most about what you saw out of him coming out of Ohio State?
Well, there really wasn't a whole lot not to like. You know, when you talk about the player, I think a tremendous combination of speed, of power, and then just an absolute technician with the way he plays the game with his hands. I think Greg Schiano said it best, who was his coordinator at Ohio State, in terms of his hands and feet being married together better than any player that he's ever coached. And so, we added Dre D Ford this offseason as an edge piece, and we felt like that was the last piece of the puzzle, another edge piece to pair with DeForest Buckner, with Solomon Thomas, and Eric Armstead, and those guys, Contavious Street, who can all have the flexibility going outside or inside, and inside's really their home, rushing the passer. So there was a ton to like with Nick Bosa.
Well, this is the fourth time in the last 5 years that you guys have drafted an edge presence in the first round. When are we going to branch out and go in other directions with that first pick?
Well, I think you're including guys like Solomon Thomas, who ultimately, we drafted thinking that his home was going to be inside, rushing against guards in pass situations. The same can be said for Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner. So really, when we got here, we felt like we needed to add that edge, and this has really been our first opportunity to add those two pieces, and we're thrilled that we have.
John, you mentioned D Ford. You get him coming over from Kansas City as an edge pressure specialist. You also get Quan Alexander, the linebacker. You bring in Tevin Coleman, that obviously Kyle Shanahan knows from his days in Atlanta. But all of this really centers around making sure that franchise quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is ready to roll. Where is he on his rehab right now?
He's doing great with his rehab. He really is. Jimmy is, like everybody, ahead of schedule, but he's doing really well. He's been diligent in his work. It's been nice, not nice for us in terms of what happened, but he and Jet McKinnon, Jerick McKinnon, our running back, have been going through this together. and they've both been so diligent in their work to get back, and we're excited to have both those guys back. They're a big part of our football team, and I'm proud of Jimmy because not only did he rehab diligently, he also used it as an opportunity to really improve himself from the neck up, spending a ton of time with the coaching staff, with Mike Shanahan, who came in here kind of because our coaches were coaching. How do you find a way to get him better? And we did anything that we knew how to help him there, and I think he'll be better for it.
And, of course, when he's back and ready to roll, and we're all ahead of schedule in April, you do get a couple of wide receivers for him in Debo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. A lot of people think Debo might have been the best complete wide receiver in the draft. What did you like most about Debo?
You know, Trey, we had an opportunity to have him down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, and that was very fortuitous because we got to see, first and foremost, we love the person. He's got a tremendous charisma to him. He's always got a smile on his face, but he plays angry. I mean, this is a guy who has tremendous hands. He can catch it, and when he catches it, he has the juice to go. But he plays with a hunger. We call it wit, what it takes to win championships. Debo, he is a physical player, and I think that's a common theme throughout our draft with Debo, with Jalen Hurd, our punter, which Mitch Wisnowski, and Dre Greenlaw. We think we got talented athletes that are physical players, and Debo certainly fits that mold.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Hurd because he's an interesting guy, right? He went to Tennessee as a running back and then sort of looked at the landscape and said, wait a minute. For long-term success, it's better if I'm a wide receiver. Decided to leave Tennessee and went to Baylor. Always a good choice. What do you like most about Jalen? He's an interesting guy.
He is an interesting guy. It's an interesting story. So we spent a lot of time with Jalen, and I think ultimately, you know, what I try to do as a general manager, you know, kind of running this draft with Kyle Shanahan, I love listening to the coaches and what's their vision for a player. I got excited when they kind of explained to me all the different things that they could do with Jalen. We can line him up as a slot receiver. We can line him up as an outside receiver. We can also, he's 230 pounds right now. We think he can carry a little more. He can be your second tight end, kind of off the ball. And then we can also put him back in the backfield with his former running back skills. Kyle's excited about the prospects of that. I think Kyle's tremendous at finding mismatches. He's a piece for us. We felt like we needed to get a little bigger. I think he provides that for us on offense. And, you know, he's got separation ability as well. So there's a ton to like with Jalen. We got comfortable with this story and then very excited with our coach's vision on how they're going to utilize him. And I think he's a guy that's going to keep defensive coordinators up at night.
Listen, the NFC West is going to be a really interesting division this year with everything that's going on. As always, John, we appreciate sharing part of your Saturday with us. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks, guys.
They're building. They're getting pieces in San Francisco. People are just happy. It's a good time here in Nashville. Apologies to all the bachelorette parties the draft has ruined.